Winter is coming. Researchers uncover the surprising cause of the Little Ice Age. This is by University of Massachusetts Amherst on phys.org. And we will look at a model of mean correlation map between the low frequency AMOC at 26 degrees and stars numbered 1 to 15 to denote location of the sites. New research from University of Amherst, Massachusetts provides a novel answer to one of the persistent questions in historical climatology, environmental history, and the earth sciences. What caused the Little Ice Age? The answer we now know is a paradox. It was caused by warming. The Little Ice Age was one of the coldest periods of the past 10,000 years, a period of cooling that was particularly pronounced in the North Atlantic region. This cold spell, whose precise timeline scholars debate, but which seems to have set in around 600 years ago, was responsible for crop failures, famines, and pandemics throughout Europe, resulting in misery and death for millions. To date, the mechanisms that led to this harsh climate state have remained inconclusive, but a new paper published recently in Science Advances gives an up-to-date picture of the events that brought about the Little Ice Age. Surprisingly, the cooling appears to have been triggered by an unusual warm episode. When lead author Francois Lapointe, postdoctoral researcher and lecturer in geosciences at UMass Amherst, and Raymond Bradley, distinguished professor in geosciences at UMass Amherst, began carefully examining their 3,000-year reconstruction of North America sea surface temperatures, results of which were published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science in 2020, they noticed something surprising. A sudden change from very warm conditions in the late 1300s to unprecedented cold conditions in the early 1400s. That was only 20 years later. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. Using many detailed marine records, Lapointe and Bradley discovered that there was an abnormally strong northward transfer of warm water in the late 1300s, which peaked around 1380. As a result, the waters south of Greenland and the Nordic seas became much warmer than usual. Lapointe says, "No one has recognized this before," end quote. This is what we're seeing now, isn't it? If you look at the past few videos, we're talking about the abnormally warm conditions in the Arctic, also Antarctic, but Arctic especially, and it's warming up much faster than the rest of the world. Now, according to this article, normally there is always a transfer of warm water from the tropics to the Arctic. It's a well-known process called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC for short, which is like a planetary conveyor belt. Typically, warm water from the tropics flows north along the coast of northern Europe. We're talking about the Gulf Stream here. And when it reaches higher altitudes and meets colder Arctic waters, it loses heat and becomes denser, causing the water to sink at the bottom of the ocean. This deep water formation then flows south along the coast of North America and continues on to circulate around the world. But in the late 1300s, AMOC strengthened significantly, which meant that far more warm water than usual was moving north, which in turn caused rapid Arctic ice loss. This is what's happening now. Anyway, going back to the article, over the course of a few decades in the late 1300s and 1400s, massed amounts of ice were flushed out into the North Atlantic, which not only cooled the North Atlantic waters, but also diluted their saltiness, ultimately causing AMOCs to collapse. It is this collapse that then triggered the substantial cooling. Fast forward to our own timeline. Between the 1960s and 1980s, we have also seen a rapid strengthening of AMOC, which has been linked with persistently high pressures in the atmosphere over Greenland. Lapointe and Bradley think the same atmospheric situation occurred just prior to the Little Ice Age, but what could have set off that persistent high temperature event in the 1380s? The answer, Lapointe discovered, is to be found in the trees. Once the researchers compared their findings to a new record of solar activity, revealed by radiocarbon isotopes preserved in tree rings, they discovered that unusually high solar activity was recorded in the late 1300s. Such solar activity tends to lead to high atmospheric pressure over Greenland. At the same time, fewer volcanic eruptions were happening on Earth, which means that there was less ash in the air. A cleaner atmosphere, quote unquote, meant that the planet was more responsive to changes in solar output. Lapointe says, hence the effect of high solar activity in the atmospheric circulation in the North Atlantic was particularly strong. Lapointe and Bradley have been wondering whether such an abrupt cooling event could happen again in our age of global climate change. They note that there is now much less Arctic sea ice due to global warming, so an event like that in the early 1400s involving sea ice transport is unlikely. However, do we have to keep an eye on the buildup of fresh water in the Beaufort Sea north of Alaska, which has increased by 40% in the past 2 decades? Its export to the subpolar North Atlantic could have a strong impact on oceanic circulation, Lapointe says. Also, persistent periods of high pressure over Greenland in summer have been much more frequent over the past decade and are linked with record-breaking ice melt. Climate models do not capture these events reliably, and so we may be underestimating future ice loss from the ice sheet, with more fresh water entering the North Atlantic, potentially leading to a weakening or the collapse of the AMOC, meaning the collapse of the Gulf Stream. The authors conclude that there is an urgent need to address these uncertainties. And we're going to look at Null School to see what the temperature of the water is around the Arctic. This is by Coastal Northeastern U.S. Global Warming. No, that's another one. This is by University of Massachusetts Amherst on phys.org. Let's take a look at the ocean water temperature from Null School now. Okay, so here we are at Null School. And this is North America, of course. This shows chemicals. Let's go to ocean. Ocean. Ocean, wind, currents, waves. Let's go to the currents. Currents, there we are. Currents, you can see the tropical currents this way, meandering up, and I was always very fascinated to see that these currents here don't cross the equator. Look at that. Most of them don't cross the equator. Look at this. Okay, so we're looking at this area here. The currents here. They're going up this way. And they go this way, and then they turn this way, as you can see here. They turn back down this way. Isn't that something? That's it right here. Should we go to the waves? You can't really tell. The wind. Wind and the currents. And currents again. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. It doesn't show that it's going this way, but okay. There should be activity there. But we see that it's coming back down this way. What's happening in Greenland? Let's see. Okay, so we do see some activity there. It's going this way. And this goes from the north this way around Greenland, coming down from Newfoundland, and back down again. So that's it. That's a Gulf Stream right there, as you can see. I'll leave links below for you for this. Thank you for your support. Please leave your comments. Thank you.